date is October 12th, 2021. The time is 7 o'clock, 6:59. I hereby call this meeting to order.
This meeting is called, are being held in accordance with the Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meeting Act. Adequate notice has been provided by transmitting the resolution of annual meetings to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, and the Tri-Town News by posting it on the bulletin board reserved for such announcements in the Township Municipal Building, and by filing it with the municipal clerk on January 8, 2021. The agenda is complete to the extent known, and formal action will be taken.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. At this time, I'll ask you please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence for those protecting us around the world and our way of life. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Mr. Harris, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Bonovich.
Present.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Here.
Councilwoman Richmond. Deputy Mayor Russo.
Here.
Mayor Berger.
At this time, I would ask for an acceptance or a motion to accept the meeting minutes of September 28, 2021.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 28th, 2021.
We,
Is there a second?
I was absent, so.
so I have to step down, hand the gavel to
Just
Ms.
set it
O'Donnell?
down.
No.
Just
Okay. I second.
And Councilman Bonovich.
Abstain.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo.
Yes.
And the minutes have been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Tonight we have two proclamations. The first for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Ms. O'Donnell, will you please read
My pleasure.
the proclamation?
Whereas breast cancer touches the lives of every American from every background and in every community across our nation, and whereas in 2021, an estimated 281,550 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in women in the United States, along with 49,290 new cases of non-invasive breast cancer. And whereas during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we honor those that we have lost, lend our strength to those who carry on the fight, and pledge to educate ourselves and our loved ones about this tragic disease. And whereas through the exact causes of breast cancer are unknown, understanding its risk factors is essential to prevention. Early detection is also key to the fight against breast cancer. And whereas during the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with others, daughters, sisters, aunts, and friends who have been infected by breast cancer and recognize the ongoing efforts dedicated advocates, researchers, and health care providers who strive each day to defeat this terrible disease. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about the prevention and treatment of this potentially life-altering illness. Now, therefore, the governing body of the Township of Howell does hereby proclaim that the month of October should be known as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Howell, and urges our citizens to work together to increase awareness and support education and research. And I would add that breast cancer is not just restricted to women. Each year, men are diagnosed and die from breast cancer. So do not let your men in your family go without self-checks as any woman would do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have one other proclamation for National Substance Abuse Prevention Month, which I will read now. Whereas Howell Township placed in the top 5 for Monmouth County municipalities for substance abuse admissions by municipality of residency in the 2019 Substance Abuse Overview. And whereas Howell Township reported 45 fatal and non-fatal substance use overdoses in 2020 and 36 in the first 2 quarters of 2021. Whereas the New Jersey Attorney General's office reported approximately 3,000 suspected drug deaths each year in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 1,262 suspected drug deaths for the first 2 quarters of 2021. And whereas in Monmouth County, marijuana and hash accounted for 99 out of 111, or 89% of substance abuse admissions for those 0 to 17-year-olds by county of residence in the 2019 Substance Abuse Overview. And whereas the Howell Alliance remains committed to providing Howell community members with education, public awareness, and programs supporting substance use prevention and mental well-being, and well as information on substance support, resources, and stigma reduction in these areas. Now, therefore, the governing body, Township of Howell, does hereby proclaim October 2021 as National Substance Abuse Prevention Month in Howell Township and commend its observance to all citizens. Thank you. At this time, I will ask for reports of township officials, but before we do that, we have somebody, a guest today, Principal of Howell Township, Howell High School, Principal Broderman.
Usually don't get a round of applause, so thank you.
How are you, sir?
First, I just want to thank the council, town manager, and dignitaries for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm here obviously on behalf of Howell High School and the Freehold Regional High School District, the Board of Education, and Dr. Sampson, our superintendent. So if you don't know already, we're here to talk about the referendum that's coming up on November 2nd. But I'd be remiss to talk about the referendum before kind of letting you know our financial state in regards to the S2 funding formula. So the S2 funding formula is something that happened 3 years ago. It was a Senate bill that came down that unfortunately depleted the Freehold Regional High School District as well as some other districts in our area and around the state of New Jersey. The funding formula is around fair share and how much taxes should be paid. And in a nutshell, to not get too specific, the funding formula feels that we don't pay enough taxes in our areas. As a resident of the Freehold Regional High School District myself, I disagree. And I'm sure most of us in this room who are residents would join me in doing so. That being said, we are getting decimated with state aid due to the S2 funding formula. We received $50 million in state aid for 7 straight years prior to this bill coming in. And now for a 7-year time period, they're bringing us down to losing $30 million of state aid. So we have a $200 million budget. $50 million it comes out of state aid, and the rest obviously comes out of taxpayers. And the funding formula feels that we should be paying, our taxpayers should be paying more. And in turn, they're taking $30 million away from us over a 7-year time period, which obviously, even in layman's terms, losing $30 million over 7 years is extremely tough to function a district, especially a district who is about as financially fiscally responsible as any district around the state of New Jersey. In fact, we are $3,500 under per student cost than the entire state of New Jersey. So, you know, the student cost tells you how much to spend per pupil, and let's say the line was here for the average of what to be spent, we're $3,500 a student under. So we are the epitome of what a district should be doing, and what S2 states is they feel like we should be financially responsible. We are. They talk about regionalization. We are regionalization. It's really upsetting as a parent. It's aggravating as a taxpayer and a parent with 2 kids who are going to be one in the district right now and one going to be in the district. And of course, as a high school principal, to know that we're losing teachers, we're seeing cuts, more will be coming. and hence that brings me to the referendum at this time. So I wanted to give you a little bit of backstory on why we're going out for referendum, and it's not something that we're just doing to do. So we've been out for referendum before, and the referendum has been upward of $40 million, including various types of structural, security, and different types of classrooms and sports fields, et cetera. The taxpayers spoke, and the referendum was declined. We listened, and we're at a point now where we're going to go out for a $14 million referendum, and the referendum is only going to include infrastructure. That is specifically parking lots, paving, and roofing. That's it. All 6 schools will get improvements in their parking lots and improvements of their roofing. What we did was we had an architect come out, and they green, red, and yellowed our roofs in our parking lots. To do all of it, it would cost a lot more than $14 million. So we're taking a look at the red, which is obviously has to happen yesterday type stuff. And specifically at Howell High School, 17% of the roof is in red, and 50% of the parking lot is in red. So, and I'm speaking specifically about Howell High School because obviously I'm standing at a Howell High School, at a Howell Town Council meeting, and I want to give you some more specifics. Those areas will happen regardless. If the referendum passes or the referendum fails, we cannot go any longer. And this summer, we will start those projects around the district regardless. The referendum is $14 million. If the referendum is passed by the taxpayers, the beauty, and this is really the only thing you really need to come out of here with, is that the state will pick up 40% of that referendum. So referendum passes, let's say, it no longer costs our local budgeting $14 million. It's less 40% that the state will pick up. So it's a huge discount that we would get. If the referendum was to not pass, then it's going to cost the district $14 million to do these projects over the next 2 summers. And again, we have to do them regardless. Now you take $14 million and add it to the hole that we're in, which is $30 million over 7 years, and we're just going to make a problem that's bad even worse, which will then decimate our district more than it already has. And I want to be clear that if the referendum passes, that does not fix our problem with the S2 funding formula. It's not going to go away. It'll make a really bad situation a little better because we won't have to go 14 more million in the hole. It would be less 40%. So we have an opportunity here to get a discount on projects that are going to happen no matter what, and they are imminent projects. So, if you take a look at our website, we have a ton of information and an informative website specifically directed to the referendum. There's videos on it from our business administrator, from our superintendent, from architects, pictures and videos of what our roofs look like, what our parking lots look like, much more detailed and in-depth information than I'm giving you right now for those that would want to see that. But overall, that's what we're pushing for. We're pushing for people to understand the referendum, to know all the facts, not use Facebook to find out facts about the referendum, to listen here. I have been going to countless meetings, PTSO, PTA, whatever they call it, meetings. I've been to the Farmingdale Town Council meetings as well. We've spoken on back to school night. We've put out different flyers, and we have these postcards that I put some outside on the table. I did give some to the town manager as well, so that those can be handed out. We also did a mailing, and anyone who lives within our scope of the district will have the opportunity to read through that. And again, I leave you with really the most important piece of this is that when you have an opportunity, if we were living in our own homes, which we do, and we knew that the state would pick up 40% of the work, it's certainly something that's eye-opening that we hope the town of Howell, as well as the other 8 municipalities, take advantage of. So I thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know that's a long night, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come speak.
No, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
One quick question, Mr. Brown. The 3 takeaways I got is, you said it's $14 million, 40% discount. What, I guess the state will funded 40%, so it'd be 8.6.
Correct.
And then you're saying this is just only for infrastructure, no turf fields? Because that was a big issue the last time.
Yeah, like I said, the last ones that went out, there was tennis courts on it, which we do need, but there's turf fields in some schools which are needed. There were some STEM classrooms. There was upgrade to our safety and security of our school district and our buildings. This is just infrastructure alone, that's it. And the reason being is those other things are things that are not, so to speak, in the red. They're things that we certainly need, things that we felt were important, but we cut it down to the point now where we went just straight infrastructure. And when the state looks at how much discount they're going to give, they give discount based on a whole formula, and infrastructure is obviously a big part of the formula. The last referendum that we went out for, which was upward of $40 million, the state was giving 23% back to us and a discount, which was a larger number, but giving a smaller percentage. Because it's infrastructure, the state is on board to pay us that 40%.
So we're going from 40, hopefully to 14, hopefully really to 8 million.
You well said.
And
You
then
can go around and give my other speeches for me.
there you go. And about that 8 million, is that bond over 7 years?
It's a 20-year bond.
20 bond.
It's a 20-year bond, so it would obviously be either 14 million or 8.6 million. It's a 20-year bond, and in regards to cost to the taxpayers, it's a half of a percent to the taxpayers. So it's I don't want to say it, but pennies to the dollar.
Gotcha.
It's literally a half of 1% of a payment, so to speak,
Well said.
over that time period.
All right, thank you. That's all I got. And thank you for bringing up the regionalization and that for your board for being ahead of the curve, because I've been to those meetings and they're pretty feisty, but you guys are ahead of the curve, so
Right.
thank you.
I appreciate it, and again, thank you for your time.
Before you leave us, may I ask a question?
Sure.
The 14 million, are you speaking only to Howell High, or is this throughout the regional system?
The 14 million is for the entire Freehold Regional High School District. On the website, and again, I wasn't going to bore you with the facts, but on the website, it breaks down the exact percentage to each school. I'm just seeing if it's on this card, but no, it's not on the card. On the website, it says, Howell High School out of the 14 million is, I believe, 3.8 million worth. It tells you, it'll break down the paving at Howell High School, which I want to say is 1.2 million, and it'll then do the parking lot at Howell High School, the roofing at Howell High School, which is X number, and it tells you that for each school what it's worth. But overall, the
Understood.
question is, overall as a district, it's 14 million for the whole district.
So all these needed repairs were in your, I guess, your projection over the 5-year period or whatever, and then it's come at this point in time, or is this part of your plan?
Yeah, so this infrastructure upgrade or necessity, I should say, has been in the plan for all of the referendums that we put out. We've been fortunate enough to still not have to do the work on the last referendums because we weren't red in any of these areas. Now that we've become red, the work will have to happen regardless. These same roofing projects were on the referendum on the last time. It didn't pass. We still didn't do the work. But now we are forced to do the work because it's imminent work.
I know that our borrowing power right now is well under 1%. So is there another way that this money could be secured without the referendum?
Not with local money, you cannot, due to the fact that we're in a position where we're losing so much money in our local budgets due to S2, that this is the only way that we're able to fund this project.
Okay, let me just check. Mr. Geegan, is the MCI, I think, is the initials I'm looking for, but is that money allocated for school districts, or is that just municipal governments?
School districts can participate in MCIA. I don't know if the regional school district had pursued that at all.
So I'm curious,
As
do
an
you think that would be an avenue that maybe?
I mean, that would be a question I would ask my business administrator. He's probably one of the most fiscally responsible and smartest business administrators I know. I'm sure he's looked at every avenue. Obviously, I'm not a business administrator. I don't even know what that initials are, nor is that part of my realm.
MCI.
But I can tell you that, my guess, and it would be a very well-educated guess, that we've looked at every avenue possible.
It might be something to ask them to look into again, should the referendum not be successful, because if you have projects that are in the red, it sounds like you can't push it off any longer. So in order to keep things running smoothly and safely, it's a bad time throughout the state for everybody. So I wish you well, but everybody's feeling the money crunch for sure. So let's hope it's a successful referendum.
I sure hope so, especially at the rate that we're getting it at and the minimal cost to the taxpayers, which unfortunately will cost more in the long run, not with the actual monies, but with losing more teachers, class sizes being bigger,
I understand.
losing more busing,
Well,
possibly
even the
losing
state
other
money,
things.
it's still taxes. And I mean, I think people look at this in that kind of a structure, tax money, tax money, tax money. So I just think at less than 1% interest, it might be something valuable.
Once
to
again, I'm
check.
sure that was looked into, but I will certainly bring it up.
Good, thank you.
All I gotta say is beat Freehold on Thursday, man. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, I am Barbara Dixell. I live at 62A Piazza Victoria, Freehold, New Jersey, the Villages. I'm going to tell you and I'm going to tell him. The Board of Education of the Township of Howell is taking us broke. I'm 82, my husband's 85. Since 2015 till now, on our tax bill, we have paid the Board of Education
Ms.
of the
Dixell,
Township. No.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
We paid $16,000. We're being taken broke, and we're going to have to move out of Howell because we can't afford to live here because of them.
I'd like to interrupt too and just let you know that we're not the Township of Howell Board of Education.
They're downstairs, aren't they?
That's not where I'm affiliated with, ma'am.
Taxes,
We're
however.
being taken broke by the Board of Education.
Ms. Dixell, you're on the list. You're actually number 1, so you'll get a chance to speak in a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Problem. Appreciate it. At this time, I would ask for reports of our council members.
I'll be brief. Just to follow up, I guess Mr. Bravin was just up here talking about the referendum. Today is the deadline to register to vote. So if you're not registered, please go on monmouthcountyvotes.com. There's 3 ways to cast your ballots right now. It's vote by mail, early in person, or at your polling location. So today is the last day. So if you're not registered to vote, please do so.
That's it? Yeah. Ms. O'Donnell?
Yes, last Saturday, the Howell PBA had their annual Oktoberfest. It appeared to be a great success. I was able to talk to the different officers that were there. Unfortunately, I missed Chief Kudrick. When I was there, he was not. So to let him know that his PBA is strong and thriving and making money. So congratulations to the PBA.
Thank you. That was a great event, by the way. I think I've seen a few people out there who were there. It was a great time. I saw something on Facebook, on the township Facebook, about submitting your applications for boards, committees, commissions, et cetera. Make sure you check that out. I think the deadline, I want to say, is November 15th.
Correct.
Did I get it right? Wow. November 15th. So if you want to apply to be on a board or commission for the following year, make sure you get your application in. And that's all I have. Let's open up to the public.
The professionals.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Gentlemen.
A few quick things, Deputy Mayor. First one, Resolution 21-324. It's the first one on the agenda. We're going to have to pull that from the agenda as I need 4 council people to vote on that. So that'll be carried to the next meeting. It's a Chapter 159 for insertion of money from a grant. Other than that, I have a few things. The contractor is scheduled to start the Lake Louise Dam reconstruction project the first week in November. Lanes Pond Road will be closed 24 hours a day from Lanes Mill Road to Locust Ave for approximately 11 months. This is the county project that they're reconstructing that dam. Prior to the start, New Jersey Natural Gas is scheduled to relocate a gas main within the next 2 weeks, and they will have periodic road closures in that area as well. Curb work is starting on Birdsall Road this week and is scheduled to be repaved from County Route 524 to just east of Cruz Farm Golf Club by the end of November. And Putnam Road, Beacon Drive, and Meadowbrook Drive are scheduled to be repaved starting the end of next week. A few things on the DPW front. They've had their initial meeting with representatives from the company doing the efficiency study. I know our DPW directors met with them, so that is underway. Clean Communities, they've done 7 cleanups with volunteers in the last few weeks. They continue bulk pickup and open space and roadside mowing, and they recently completed the shared service for Farmingdale's bulk pickup that we do every year. And Farmingdale has been invoiced for the work that was done. Additionally, finally, they've started working with our certified tree expert from CME to begin a hazardous tree inventory for the town. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Geekin. Mr. Howard? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark.
That's nothing for me.
Thank you.
I just have one short one. We put a survey up on our township website for suggestions from the citizens of the township, any stakeholder within the township, business owners as well, for roadways and intersections that we could look at for the circulation element. So if you haven't done so already, please go on the website, take the survey. We have about 500 responses already, so it's been great. It's going to be up for a couple more weeks.
Great.
Once I start to see the responses slow down, we'll probably take it down and start to evaluate where we're going to focus.
That's awesome. 500, you said?
500, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris, nothing?
No report, thank you.
All right, at this time, I will open the public portion. We have 5 names on the list. Ms. Dixell?
Barbara Dixell, The Villages. I'm going to read to you what I will read at another meeting, but I'm going to read it anyway because I have it prepared. Last meeting, it was said that the Fountains was coming in October 12th to talk about the developers agreement. Why was executive session canceled for tonight? Anybody? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to know, well, again, I'm going to read this. I'd like to know what, if any, deals are going to be made with this developers agreement, and why is it being held, or will be held, behind closed doors that was supposed to have happened tonight? The citizens of Howell Township have a right to know what's happening, to hear it and not hear it from behind closed doors. There is something very wrong with what's going on. If there is a reporter in this building tonight, I would like them to make a note, to contact the AG and any prosecutor, because I want to know what this deal is with this developers agreement. That was supposed to, not, I was here 20 years ago when it was done. We are the United States of America, and we do everything in public. We have a right to hear, we have a right to free speech, and we have a right to hear what's going on. We have a right for our council to do their work in open public, not behind closed doors, that we have to hear it later. I also want to ask that Resolution R-316 that you're going to vote on tonight, maybe, be open to the public. You have to do a separate vote on that. Open it to the public for public discussion. We have a right to do that. Thank you very much.
thank you, Ms. Dixell.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Mrs. Dixell, there's just a couple of things. I think at the last meeting, you had made a statement, and we had corrected you. It was misinformation, incorrect information. And I believe it was the manager that he had even asked you, where'd you get the information from? Because if it's something you're reading or something that's, on one of our sites, our webpage, we'd like to correct it. However, you're telling us that you couldn't divulge it. And that disturbs me in that I think you're getting information from people that don't have the correct information. So I just want to reiterate very carefully that throughout this whole process, the builder's agreement and other information has been freely distributed to the council. And the council's read everything. This is what I have copied from my webmail on the Fountains and the builder's agreement. So when someone thinks that we haven't read it or that we're not informed, it's either a misunderstanding or a lie, and I'm not sure which. But I will tell you that when you want information, we're happy to give it as long as it's not in any litigation or we're legally able to do so. But certainly, this council has been privy to the agreement and to all of the information since the onset. It's all public information. Anytime it came to a meeting, you can just go on your computer and watch that particular meeting. It's just disturbing that there seems to be a lot of misinformation out there that's not accurate. So I don't want people to think that this has not been vetted through planning board or that council has not been able to have information. That's not the case.
May I ask why the developer didn't come in here tonight and to have this meeting with the developers'
Yes,
agreements?
you certainly can, and I'm happy to tell you.
Excuse me, Councilwoman, if I can
Yes.
interject. The attorney for the developer is present in the room this evening and prepared to speak. I
Well,
believe he may be on the list.
I'd like to jump in here. Councilwoman O'Donnell, on the 14th of September, when this developers agreement was called and the motion failed, the vote, it failed.
Correct.
I did not have the developers agreement on 9/14. I received it prior to 9/28. So for us to have even that on the agenda without not having the developers agreement on the 14th of September, I did not have it. And it was not any attachment sent to council. It was sent in a separate email before the 28th. And the 28th, it was then tabled because Councilwoman Richmond said I was not present, and I'm here tonight. So I love that, she said my name multiple times, like I was going to appear out of the wall. But once again, there's 60% present on the 28th. There's 60% of council voted, present tonight. And I'll say right now, I'm going to make the motion to table this tonight as well. Because I was given the opportunity to be present. The rest of the council should be made, have the opportunity. But to say that I had the developers agreement on the 14th is a complete lie.
Well, I asked for information, and when I ask for it, I typically get it. But at the meeting that you were not...
So did I, and I got it after that
At the meeting
meeting.
that you were not present, in all fairness, we thought that you would want to be here because it was at your behest to have the council come in and speak.
Mr. Clark, can you
So it was
comment?
done out of a
Yeah,
courtesy.
so let me clarify the record, and I'll do this on behalf of Mr. Harris, who's our clerk. On or about, it was originally scheduled for the meeting on August 17th. Prior to that meeting, he distributed the agenda packet that had the resolution and the developers agreement. It was subsequently tabled because there was a question. On or about, I think, August 24th, I specifically sent a copy of the developers agreement around to all council, including Councilman Bonovich. It was then listed for September 14th. Everybody was given a copy of the developers agreement in that packet.
With
And
that
I will
agenda,
tell you,
no, I
I'm
was not.
speaking now, Councilman.
Yeah.
I will tell you specifically that I know for a fact the mayor had it because I have a signed copy of that developers agreement from that night. So I can tell you, all along, everybody's been given enough information. And if you say you didn't get it, I suggest you check your emails.
You know what? When that packet came in for the September 14th, it was not included. And that link to Exhibit A was a dead link to council. So that's...
I'm telling
that's
you, you
what I
got it on the 24th in an email
All
from me.
right, so now...
So you had it for
so now the
21
mo-
days before
So now the
September
motion
14th.
failed, right? That night it failed on the 14th. And then how did it get back on the agenda for the 28th? Did council request that, or did you just put it on there?
I just put it on there because
Okay.
I'm not about to have the town engage in litigation unnecessarily.
I thought
So
we
you
don't
can
need
go
this,
on the record
but we don't need a
specifically
developers
stating what
agreement,
you
but
want to
now
do.
we need it, now we're gonna get sued, we're not gonna get sued. What's
No,
your
I've
answer?
always maintained the position, and it's been consistent. We're going to get sued.
All right, well, then the developer has to agree to their 2003 settlement. They need to agree to it too. Because I read the developers
2003,
agreement.
they already agreed to it.
No, they did not.
That's already a done deal. There's a signed document from 2003
And this-
by the council and the
this current
developer.
developers agreement, right? Correct? Correct.
This current developers agreement doesn't exist. It hasn't been ratified by
All right,
council.
well, there's some mistakes in it then.
There's
The developer's
mistakes in
not-
what?
the-
In
the
this
devel-
developer's
the-
agreement?
The developers is not following that agreement of 2003 to the letter.
Which agreement? What are they not
The
doing?
settlement in 2003.
And when did you bring that to anybody's attention, other than for the first time tonight in some veiled reference, without specifics?
I've been
Not
reading this
once.
all day, waiting. I was waiting to have this discussion in executive, not out here, Mr. Clark.
Well, transparency, Councilman, correct? Let's do it
Well,
out
Did I
here.
cancel executive?
No, we're out here and we're talking about it.
okay.
And I'm not going to have you sit there and allege that you're not getting information
I
when the
did not.
facts are that you did.
Yeah, well, you know what? Thank you for sending it before the 28th, and thank you guys for tabling it. And you know what? Without the council here, not all the council here, I suggest that we table it once again.
I think we all
We
agree.
all decided.
Yeah, I think that's all, this is an important,
All I wanted to know was, we were told this guy was coming in, they were coming in, the developer was coming in, and then you would have your discussion, make your agreement, or whoever knows you're gonna give them, whatever you're gonna give them. We need to know, we needed to have it in public, this can't be done in the back room.
It's not. Mrs. Dixell, that's where I was
It's not.
going with my comment to you, that we'd like to do this with a full council,
That's what it needs to be.
and we are trying. I know that Councilwoman Richmond had surgery. She had told us about this several months ago, so we knew she wouldn't be present.
And
However,
R316 has to be open to the public
yes, when,
and public comment.
it always is.
Before you vote on it.
All resolutions are open to the public. You know that.
It's a special vote on this. But make sure
Not special.
that, I was told by Mr. Harris, there's going to be a separate vote on
Ms. Dixell,
R316.
Ms. Dixell, let me correct you. It is not a special vote.
It'll be a
It will
separate
be
vote.
considered separately out of the
That's right.
consent agenda.
Fine.
But it will be voted on completely by this council in the public forum.
I am requesting that R316 be separated out. Take your separate vote, open it to the public for comments. Thank you.
thank you. Next on the list, we have Ms. Springer. I'm sorry, I couldn't read the first name here, it's a little, is Ms. Springer here?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
Yes.
Sorry, Ron.
That's quite all right.
Hello, my name is Ron Springer. My wife Susie and I own Bear Creek Herbery on Lakewood Farmingdale Road. Forgive my nerves a little bit. I'm trying to communicate as best I can tonight.
Oh,
but,
we're-
You're fine.
We're really here to kind of create some more awareness for the farm really not doing so well. I've owned it for 20 years. It's a 15-acre farm, and the front part of it is the only area that I can really farm. And it's been difficult over the years to really sustain it. And a couple of years ago, we began to do some events. We have beautiful grounds. Like after work, I was a landscaper for 20 years during this process. After work, I would build a chicken coop or do a lawn area or little shrub beds. And over the years, we developed a nice clientele, and they really enjoyed the grounds. People would come with their children and their dogs, feed the goats, feed the chickens. And we had a few events, and we said, boy, people are really enjoying this, and we can actually financially make this work for a small farm. And we talked with Matt Howard about it, and apparently we found out at some point in time that it wasn't legal for us to do an event. And as of this moment, we're trying to figure out how we're going to survive. And I think we wrote and emailed all of you guys a letter, and we also developed a petition. I think we got 1,500 signatures in a week. And these are all of our customers who come with their kids and their families and enjoy the farm. And if you guys could see any way to make that work for us, we don't feel we're doing any harm. We've held a number of events very safely. Whenever we've had extra cars or traffic, we've always hired a Howell Township policeman. And
Part of the master plan, probably.
uh,
Going forward, there's something in the master plan about farms possibly being able to do events with a site plan rather than the very costly land variance.
Mr. Howard, can you want to step in?
Yeah, so I could just give some background. Back in 2018 is when this kind of was coming up with a few different farms. And
Correct.
we actually took this to the Monmouth County Agricultural Development Board, as well as all the way up to the State Agricultural Development Committee. And it was interesting because under Right to Farm, where we thought maybe these events could be, have jurisdiction for approval and review, both the county and the state said they wanted no part of special events. So birthday parties, bridal showers, weddings on farms were not considered farm events. That put it squarely in zoning. So taking a look at the ordinance and the structure of everything, it's not permitted. It's not a permitted use in those zones. It's actually not a permitted use in any zone, even our highway commercial zones. We don't permit wedding banquet facilities. It's not that we don't want them or anything, it's just that it's not in the ordinance right now. They are a different use from retail, from farming, because usually they're low intensity during the week, and on the weekend, you're gonna get a few events, and you might have 500 people showing up in a half-hour window and then leaving in a half-hour window. That's a very different type of use than anything else we have in our ordinance. So the direction in 2018 was it takes a use variance to permit that use. I've since heard this issue coming up at more and more farms. Knowing we're a right-to-farm town, I try and keep my ear to the ground on any type of issue, whether it's sheds and setbacks, fences and setbacks, or something like this. Hearing that farms are struggling, I took the initiative to talk to our township planner. We are undergoing a master plan reevaluation and a land use element to include this as a discussion with the planning board to see if we can facilitate making this either a permitted or a conditional use on farms. Conditional use would have conditions for maybe maximum number of people, minimum size of the farm, but it would give a path to getting an approval through the township that doesn't require a use variance. So that conversation's been started with the planner. We are in the infancy of looking at it, but we hope it could be included in the master plan element, and maybe we could have an ordinance in the not so near future, not so distant future.
Excellent.
One thing I'd like to say to Matt's point is, we're not interested in overdoing the property with 500 cars or anything like that. We would even forego weddings entirely. We have enough people who want to do kids' birthday parties and small engagement family things where
Well-
we could limit it to whatever our property could sustain, parking, safety-wise. We're not trying to,
I wouldn't say rule out, I say, yeah, let's limit, like Matt Howard said, this has come up numerous times. Other farms have reached out, and we've been dealing with this quite a while before you guys came to us. I did see your petition online. I was taken back how quickly it filled up. I think it was 600 in one day. So I've been watching, and I took a look at your property, and I'm embarrassed I haven't been there with my wife and kids, but it looks beautiful. I seen the wedding pictures; they look amazing. So hopefully we could get this taken care of for all the farmers out there.
so much. Is there any idea on whether that will happen while I'm still young? I'm 72.
We'll try our best. I only got a year up here, so we're gonna get done.
Great, thank you so much.
I'm just going to leave you all with a packet we put together with the actual petition and just several comments that we got from people that I think
I
you
saw
might
that
find
as well.
interesting. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Just wanted to add that your place is just gorgeous when
you
I
so
visit
much.
there. I mean, it's very enjoyable. And then, whether you've had an event that possibly was overlooked by enforcement at some point in time, the fact that you hired a police officer for traffic, just thank you so much for thinking of safety first.
Thank you.
I'm really impressed that, I mean, I realize you're in this business to make money, but the fact that safety was an issue for you, I'm very thankful, and I know the council looks at that in a very high regard, so thank you so much.
You're welcome,
Oh, thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you for
Thank you very
coming.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kathy Novak?
Kathy Novak, 16 Stratton Drive. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council and professionals. Earlier today, I sent all of Council, Mr. Harris and Mr. Clark and Mr. Gagan, a copy of a lawsuit I filed, and unfortunately, I just got the documents via email today, and I'm sure my attorney will be serving the town in the appropriate amount of time. But I just wanted to confirm that everybody did get my email, did see my...
Your attorney can serve the township.
He is. I just wanted to make sure that, as a courtesy, I was letting council and professionals.
Appreciate the courtesy, but again, it's not proper service, so I do not understand it was a courtesy. We have it, and obviously, because it's active litigation, council can't discuss it.
I'm not here to discuss it. I just wanted to say that I do have hard copies if anybody would like it.
I received your email, but we didn't have executive to talk about this, and as Mr. Clark said, I guess we're going to have to wait and see here.
So, did anybody want the hard copy that I have?
I would imagine we would all get a copy when we're served, right? Yeah.
Okay. So, it's, the lawsuit I filed is against, I had made an Oprah request for the developer's agreement of the fountains, and I was denied the request. And I don't make many Oprah requests. So, this wasn't lightly that I took this. One thing I would just like to say about the Oprah requests in this town is that a lot of people are given a hard time about them. And it seems almost as if the town doesn't really look favorably on giving out public information. So I just want to read one thing, and it's a general comment. Our Supreme Court has stated that those who enacted Oprah understood that knowledge is power in a democracy, and that without access to information contained in records maintained by public agencies, citizens cannot monitor the operation of our government or hold public officials accountable for their actions. So I really think this is a very important matter, the Oprah requests and how they're handled, and maybe just be more resident-friendly when there are Oprah requests. Thank you.
So your Oprah request was denied?
My Oprah request was denied, and it was denied because they said the developer's agreement was not accepted, and not until it was accepted would I be able to see it.
It falls
Thank-
squarely
thank
within an
you.
Oprah exemption. Draft documents, advisory, consultative, deliberative. We withhold all draft documents.
Mr. Clark, I think you commented on this at the last meeting, correct?
Correct.
Louis Kaufman?
Good evening, everyone.
Sir.
They all wanted to see the developer. Here I am. My name's Louis Kaufman, and I'm here on behalf of the developer of the fountains at Howell. Can you hear me now? I'm here because I was under the impression the matter was put off once I was told it would be put on tonight. I'm here to have it heard. I'm hearing now that you plan on tabling it.
That's correct.
Mr. Bonovich, you had asked to have the developer come down. You had asked Mr. Clark to bring him down. Was there a question you wanted to
Well,
ask us?
who do you represent? First of all, what's your name again for the record? What's your name? Louis Kaufman. Who do you represent?
6461 Route 9 Howell LLC, the owner and developer of that property.
And what's your relation with MGD Holdings?
We purchased the property from them.
As well as Bright Horizons also purchased the property from them, correct?
That was an alternate LLC. We've internally sold that to ourselves.
So MGD Holdings sold it to Sky Equities and to Bright Horizons, and now you purchased that
I don't know
from,
who Sky Equities is.
excuse me?
I don't know who Sky Equities is.
Well, there's three LLCs that this deed passed since this has been memorialized by the planning board.
I don't know who Sky Equities is.
Sir, please.
Well, I'm just telling you, after this was memorialized by our planning board and voted on, it was passed from MGD Holdings to Sky Equities. This is all within a year.
I purchased it, we purchased it from MGD Holdings. Sky Equities is not an entity I'm familiar with or should be in the chain of title.
So MGD Holdings sold it to Bright Horizons, and then MGD Holdings sold it to Bright Horizons as well? I mean, MGD sold to Bright Horizons, and MGD sold it to, this is confusing me, sold it also to you, 6146 LLC? Is that it?
MGD Holdings sold
Okay.
it to Bright Horizons.
Okay.
We internally have transferred it to another entity that we own, 6461 Route 9 Howell LLC.
How come that deed doesn't show that it's recorded like that?
I don't know what you're looking at. We are the owner of 6461 Route
Okay.
9 Howell.
Okay, I'm just saying, you do a deed search, it doesn't show that transaction.
Well, I have a title policy that says that we own the property.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Bonovich, if I may stop you. This really is public comments, and really, you should not be engaging in this type of dialogue.
All right, well, he asked me the questions, now I'm going to ask you the question. So I guess we'll just table it, and we'll wait till this developer agreement is made public, and then we'll have this Mr. Kaufman back then.
Why is it being
Well-
tabled? Why is it being tabled?
Well, sir, we feel that we need a full council for this decision. We have 2 council members who are missing.
quorum tonight that could pass this.
We have 40% of our council who's not here. And important decisions such as this, I feel that we should have a full council.
Been tabled once already, the last meeting.
Correct.
So you're making it appear as if there's some hidden
Sir.
agenda here. There's no hidden agenda.
Sir. No hidden agenda. I feel, and I believe my fellow council members feel, that this decision, it's an important decision, we should have a full council present.
You understand this is really a ministerial act. This is not a discretionary act. You've been recommended to sign it by your Director of Development, by your attorney. You have some fiduciary obligation not to set yourselves up for litigation, which, in case you have any question, it will come if you don't agree to this.
So you're saying we don't need it, but you're going to litigate it. Which one is it? If you don't need it, why are you going to litigate us? Which one is it?
Because
Listen,
the Director of Development, the zoning officer, won't give me a building permit without it.
Mr. Kaufman, this is public
And-
comment.
and-
Hold on, John,
Thank you.
Mr. Councilman Bonovich, this is public comment, okay? Sir, do you have any more comments for the board?
Yes. The board unanimously agreed to accept our development bonds. They unanimously agreed to issue a woodlands management permit for which we posted with the town already for $96,000. They unanimously agreed to a sewer connection fee for, that will cost $188,000. So you've taken the money, why won't you allow us to
Who's this
start?
unanimously? Who accepted
The
this?
council.
No, we did not.
Yeah, you did.
We didn't accept this developer's agreement.
I never said the developers agreement.
Well, the developer's agreement is that.
You voted on these items separately, woodlands management and the sewer fees. They were earlier in the year, and it was a unanimous vote.
Correct.
You voted on it, you voted yes.
So you've taken the money. How about letting us build? Or is that the way we're treated here?
Well,
The
we have lots of questions with this, because the council, nothing was really discussed with the professionals and the council about 4 stories versus 3 stories versus R1. Even Mr. Clark said he dug back through 30 years of this, and it's quite messy. So to be lopped and thrown all on council in one meeting, and not all full councils here, that's what we decided. We decided for a full council to be here, and that's it, Mr. Kaufman.
The only issue that should be before this council is whether or not to sign that developers agreement. They should not be re-adjudicating whether or not it should be 4 stories or 60 feet or any of the zoning approvals that we have received. That is not within the jurisdiction of this council at this time.
Yeah,
So-
and that zone is no longer 4 stories, it's 2 stories, am I correct?
That may be, but we have the approvals for it.
2003 MGD, right? That was the agreement, settlement?
Well, that was a settlement that allowed you to get out of a COA obligation.
Okay.
We have had, approvals from the planning board in 2017 and 2018.
And that court settlement in 2003, that agreement says that you are to donate the land prior to any permits being issued. Are you going to donate that land prior?
That's in the developer's agreement. If you would accept it, what
No,
that
no, no,
developer's
no,
agreement, what that developer's agreement
No,
indicates.
the court settlement says that you are to donate that land prior to any permits or building.
Okay, if that's what you want, then I can do that. That's what I'm here for. Give me the building permit. That's exactly right. That's what I'm here for. However, by the way, in 2003, that settlement was also called a developer's agreement. So if you wish to accept that as a thing you stand on, then Mr. Howard should understand that we already have a developer's agreement. So he no longer, as the zoning officer, that he has that complied with, which is okay with us. We will stand on that.
So you would donate the land prior to any permits?
We have that in the developer's agreement. Sign the developer's agreement we have agreed to. As a matter of fact, that developer's agreement has in it
It's
consolidated.
not in this current developer's agreement.
Oh, it's not?
No. It just says about the woodlands like you spoke of and the sewer connection fees. It doesn't say that the land will be donated prior. It does not.
Are you missing pages? Because it's in there.
It's not in here. It's not here.
Can we get clarification from Mr. Clark on the 2003 Builders Agreement? Does that stand? There'll be full transparency once it's ratified. I realize that the mayor's already signed it.
That's incorrect. That is incorrect.
So the mayor did not sign it.
There has been no development agreement passed by this governing body that has been signed by the mayor.
Thank you.
The mayor has signed it, it hasn't been passed.
And Mr.
I'm
Clark,
holding it right here.
Bang him out of the way.
Sir,
I'm just gonna
sir, you will
ask.
have an opportunity to speak, please, please.
Let's not be rude. Let's try to get to the information at hand. So the piece of paper that you just looked at, Mr. Clark, is exactly what?
This is the developer's agreement that the mayor signed prior to the September meeting.
Okay.
It has not been distributed to the developer because it has not been ratified by
By
council.
council.
Got it.
And that was my full understanding. Okay.
Well, I ask you to sign it before it's ratified.
Because that's the way things are
Okay,
done.
I
She
wouldn't do
signs
that.
it, then it's
I wouldn't.
ratified.
Well,
That's business.
I'm your next mayor, no way.
Mr.
You want me to
Kaufman?
find that for you, Mr. Clark? About the 43 acres?
Yeah.
That we would dedicate? And if the town didn't want it, then we would just hold on to it? Yeah, it's in there. As a matter of fact, it was one of the negotiated points of the thing that I don't understand, Mr. Ivanovich, why you would not have that.
It's not here. I read it. It's not here. I highlighted things. It's not here. It doesn't say that you would donate prior to permits. It says that you transfer the money prior to the permits. That's it. That's it.
So you're looking for the specific language, will be donated prior to permits? That's in the 2003 agreement.
Okay.
What I stated it's in the 2003, but it's not in the current.
Right, it also says in the 2003 agreement that as soon as permits are issued, then the original agreement from 1989 is dead and gone. I think we may want to enforce that, so we should probably not stand too much on, which version controls, because I think all of them will at some
So
point.
you got
be
98,
important.
2003, and you have 2021.
Correct.
Okay.
And just for the record, both the preliminary and final approvals from the planning board stipulate that the land will be donated. So that is a condition of the approval and is required of the applicant.
And Mr. Kaufman, you're representing that today on record, that is in fact the case,
If
correct?
I didn't have to, if they will sign the developer's agreement, we will follow what the developer's agreement states.
Got it.
And it is in there.
Got it.
If the town doesn't want to allow us to develop under the approvals that are in place, well, then the 2003 agreement indicates that we can develop up to 400 more units, plus the 26, well, not plus, with 26 units on the back end for single family.
Sir, please, we're in the middle of public comment.
I'm sorry, Councilman, but this is public comment time. This isn't litigation time, and you guys are going
No, sir, he was invited by council.
I understand that, but you guys aren't all here, and you said you're gonna table this until you're all set.
Let the residents speak. It's gonna get
You
hot.
know?
Mr. Kaufman, do you have anything additional? You were saying about the 400 unit, I'm sorry.
If the council wishes to stand by, if you want to enforce the 2003 agreement, then you should look at the consequences of that if you don't agree to allow us to build now. It's time to allow, I don't understand what the objection is altogether. The property is on Route 9. The 100 units would be swallowed up in a minute. It's not like we're on some local street. However, I understand that the town, its citizenry, its governing body, as a general rule, do not endorse development. But this one is a fait accompli. So can we move on? There's a significant amount of sums that would be due to the township. And I believe you've been advised, but I won't speak to that. I don't think you have a defensible position. But if you force us to find out, we will.
Mr. Kaufman, Mr. Clark explained in great detail in the last meeting his position on not ratifying this agreement, and I think you were going to say you were going to go into that. Can you explain your position with regard to the agreement
The developers agreement? The
not being ratified?
The approvals in 2017 specify that a developer agreement, if necessary, should be signed. So the question is it necessary? If it's not necessary, then just then say so, and Mr. Howard would issue me the permits. If it is necessary, the developers agreement, I don't know why everybody thinks it's some kind of backroom deal. The developers agreement is simply a consolidation of all our obligations. There's nothing new or old in there. Simply a consolidation of all the obligations that we will agree to pay you all those fees, to dedicate the land, and, to follow all of the approvals. It's fairly standardized developer agreement. There's a little bit of, I thought it was a little tough, but we agree to it. And it's not some deal that we derive some benefit. It's a consolidation of all our obligations. There's nothing onerous for the township about it. So I'm a little confused by this unusual step not to sign what should be a ministerial act. It's been negotiated. It's not really discretionary at this point. If you want it, fine. If you don't, then just say so.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you.
Mr. Steve Morlino, and we'll have time to discuss. I think you were wanted to say something, Councilman?
Well, my impression is that we will be able to speak to Mr. Kaufman and have questions answered if there are any other questions from council, that this isn't the finality of any exchange of information,
Okay.
correct?
I would imagine so.
Okay.
Good evening, Steve Morlino, Peachstone Road. I heard Councilwoman O'Donnell talk about Oprah and how we provide instrumentation to look at Oprah documents that are requested. Well, I have to tell you, after the last meeting, I put in an Oprah request. 6 days later, and I understand you have 7 days to do this, 6 days later, I got a response, and I was told I could come in and look at some documents, but I would have to pay the salary of somebody to sit here and babysit me. I find this highly unusual, okay? So I called the Office of Records Counsel in Trenton, and I spoke to an attorney down there. And the attorney advised me that in the 14 years he's been with the Records Council, this issue has come up twice in his 14 years. And he had a caseload right now of over 300 Oprah complaints, and not one of them is this, okay? So I have a concern, what are we trying to achieve? So then I called at the lawyer's directive. He gave me his opinion, so I called Mr. Howard, and I spoke to him, and we agreed on the phone that he would email me the developer's agreements, because he said, you were asking for a lot of stuff, and that's why I had to pay someone's salary to sit here and hold my hand. And I told him at one point I was the chairman of the Economic Development Committee here in Howell. As a matter of fact, I was the founder of it, and I had a key to town hall, and I came and went as I pleased. I never stole a piece of paper in my life, okay? So I don't understand what the cloak and dagger stuff is here with this agreement or with any of these papers. But anyway, after we agreed that I would get this by email, okay, the next day I received a correspondence from Mr. Harris telling me I'd have to put in another Oprah request for these documents, okay?
Incorrect.
I'm a little, well, correct me then, what did I get?
The request you submitted, you had asked for access to come in and review government documents.
That's correct.
I responded to you as the custodian of records, that you could contact Mr. Howard and make an appointment to come into his office to review those documents.
That's correct.
And my response to you never included anything about paying an employee's salary.
Well,
After you
who
responded
directed
to-
me that I would have to pay the salary?
I am not sure where that communication
I have it in writing
came
on
from.
an email.
It did not come from my office as the custodian of records. It did not come from me. After
So how come
communicating with-
someone circumvents the custodian of records?
I cannot explain that, okay? But your response comes to the clerk, and the clerk responds to you. In subsequent conversations, you had amended your request. I provided you access to the documents and said to you that the consideration would be that in response to your request, this request would be closed. And if you wanted any additional requests, you would need to file another Oprah request for those documents.
So was I going to get emailed to me the two documents that I discussed with Mr. Howard?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact,
The world was created in 7 days. I still haven't gotten the documents.
Come on.
ironically, ironically, you will be receiving them tomorrow morning.
Isn't that wonderful? After the council was supposed to vote this evening, so after the vote, I was going to get documents that I wanted to look at so I could come here and speak with some intelligence. Let me move on because I have other things to talk about.
I'd like to just go on record on a couple things. So community development gets, I'd say, the bulk share of Oprah requests for the township. Most of them are pretty simple. Open, close permits on a property, we're selling the property. Often, though, we receive requests that are enormous. We have requests for every open code violation in town, which are hundreds. And we have people request the copy of all of those open code violations. Our practice has always been, if it is an excessive request, we reach back out to the requester and say, this is going to take X amount of time, and according to the law, we're entitled to a fee to process that request. Most of the time, those people are in business to prey, unfortunately, on residents. So they're looking for open violations so they can have leverage over somebody and do work for money. Look for all those open issues. Happens on vacant properties as well. We're able to weed out most of those requests. You put your record out as to your history that you've never stolen anything. I don't know that. I don't care. You don't get preferential treatment as somebody that has been in this township before and shouldn't have to.
I didn't ask for anything
You did.
preferential.
You did. You
I
said-
asked you why I would have to pay the salary
You said-
of someone to sit here and babysit.
Because my only records are single pieces of paper. If something disappears, I can tell you those records are vitally important to my zoning decisions, engineering decisions, everything in my department. If something were to disappear, and it's not for you, it's for everybody else as well. So by you saying that that you don't need a babysitter, well, everybody else does, that means you do too.
Well, I have to go on record and tell you I've spoken to a number of people who have come here and looked at documents, and nobody babysat with
We
them.
always have somebody sit in the room with
Well,
them.
that's not the case.
And usually,
I don't want to waste my
one
time.
last
Hold
point.
on. Please,
One-
I'm going to say,
Let's move on.
no, real quick. Everybody who's going to speak, please direct your questions and your comments to the council, okay? You want to follow the,
I've never paid 1 penny.
sir, you-
Okay, Robert's rules. I'll follow Robert's rules. I'll go through the chair, okay? So, again, we heard the attorney talk. Mr. Bonovich spoke. I'm a little concerned that You know, we have 18 years have transpired since this agreement that nobody seems to be able to show the public, which I have a real problem with. If it was agreed to 18 years ago, why can't we see it? That's number one. This property was apparently transferred in April of 18, then it was transferred again in March of 21, and then it was transferred again in May of 21 to 3 different entities, which I don't understand what is going on. And the cloak of secrecy here seems, lawyer alluded to there's nothing wrong. Well, then I got to question, why can't the public see these documents? I really have a concern about what's going on. Okay, so maybe we need to hire Mr. Inselbrook from Lakewood there. He gets $1 million for his services. He must be pretty good. Maybe we need to hire him to look at this, because I don't hear our counsel telling us what the public thinks should be done in this case, okay? And that's how I'm going to leave it. I hope someday, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to see some documents sent to me that I asked for, okay? I have no problem paying for a couple pieces of paper, but I'm not going to pay someone's salary that I already pay for as a taxpayer. I pay their salaries. They work for me, whether they realize it or not. They work for the public behind me. We already paid the salaries. We pay the benefits. And I have to tell you, I worked for an organization where I had to provide documents to the custodian of records. Never once in the 27 years I worked for those public agencies did we ever charge anybody to sit down and babysit, okay? I rest my case. Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. Two things, Mr. Clark. Actually, one from Mr. Clark and one from Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, with regard to the Oprah request that was made, was anything outside of the time limit specified under the law?
Absolutely not.
Okay. With regard to the developer's agreement, Mr. Clark, I think you spoke to this at the last meeting. Can you please explain to the public and us what's going on with the developer's agreement and why it can't be shared?
Developer's agreement's a draft document. Draft documents under Oprah are considered advisory, consultative, and deliberative, and they're exempt from production. It's right in the Oprah 25 exemptions, so we don't produce them. If it's signed, if it's approved by council and signed and ratified, sure.
Okay.
And I'm sure everybody's going to be disappointed by the contents of it if it ever gets ratified.
Is anything going on with this procedure that we're doing now with this development that's not being done or hasn't been done with prior projects?
Other than delaying the vote for so long, no. Typically, we approve developers' agreements routinely.
Are developers' agreements given to the public prior to
No.
ratification?
No.
Okay.
No, and I'll note for the record, because we did have some back and forth with the councilman on it, Mr. Harris distributed the developer's agreement specifically by a separate email on August 17th, so whatever the dead link issue was, you got it by email as well.
Question, Mr. Clark. It was just brought up, Deputy Mayor Russo brought it up. As far as this in Oprah and it being a draft versus a public document. So if we voted on it and it passed, it's a public document. If we voted on it and it didn't pass, it's not a public document?
When it's voted on and it passes and it's signed, it's
So
a
if
public document.
So if it's voted on and fails, it's not a public document?
Correct.
Okay.
And one more thing, I'm sorry, because I see, and we all see how many Oprah requests that you guys get. Can you share with the public how many you get on like a daily basis?
I get to my department between 70 and 100 per month.
Okay.
And this specific request, I estimate to be about 5,000 pieces of paper. I don't have staff to produce that or to sit and watch somebody
I just
look
want the
through that.
public to know, because we see this stuff. We see this stuff come in. We get monthly reports with regard to Oprah, and I'm taken back by how many, I didn't realize how many we get, and they're a small office. I don't want the public to think that our professionals aren't working their tails off in that office. I can tell you that you are. Yes?
Deputy Mayor, just for your information, this is a low year so far, but to date, we have had 1,230 Oprah requests this year.
And how many employees process those?
One?
Okay.
Regularly. But we support her as required.
Thank you. I appreciate your hard work.
And of course, that number is also, has a dollar value attached to it, which
course, of
we haven't
course.
spoken about, which is quite heavy.
Ms. Smilek, I saw you wanted to see him.
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street, Howell, New Jersey. I'm going to start with a good point. I've seen DPW crews out there, and they are trimming the sides of the trees that have been blocking signs. 2 years ago, I asked for Burgerville Road to get done. That was done. West Farms Road's been. I want to say what a great job DPW has been doing. So let me start on a positive note.
You can keep going with the positive if you'd like. I mean, we can,
Quite a few positive things going on.
of course.
You know, but we always get stuck with the negative. So also, would it be possible if the manager emails me the road closures again? Sure. Thank you. Okay, so that's the positive. Do we have a date for the next marijuana meeting, since it was canceled?
I assume that we were just going to do it at the next meeting. Mr. Gagan, can we do it at the next meeting? That's in October 24th, I want to say.
We had already started scheduling people for meetings out, so that I believe the next one will be November 9th.
Okay.
November 9th, okay. Okay.
We were, if I can, generally, we were looking at every other council meeting, so we can spread it.
R21-325, is this a different company than what Bear is for? Is this our regular affordable housing that's not?
That's Andy Bear's law firm.
Andy
Right.
Bear's law firm? Okay, so we're still dealing with that. R21-327, who oversees the billing for this?
I do.
Okay, I don't want to make any accusations. It's my opinion, though, that maybe somebody else should have the,
There's no conflict.
you come from this law
There's no
firm.
conflict. I'm telling you
Okay.
right now,
I'm
I
just-
already did the
Can
analysis.
I tell you what my problem is?
No, you can stop right
Yeah,
there
Ms.
because you're going to end up defaming me.
Please.
Okay.
You don't have point of order. Only the council does. I have point of order.
Guys, gentlemen, I'm not going to have this meeting get out of hand, okay? Please.
R21-329, is this a permanent company? Is this a permanent solution, or are we doing this for a certain amount of time?
There's no set amount of time. We've advertised to replace our QPA and have not gotten any viable candidates.
Okay, so Mike Rizzo was the only QPA for Howell Township. Nobody else in Howell Township holds their QPA.
We do have people that hold that designation, but only one gets designated as such.
Okay, but why aren't we using why are we spending money to go outside when we have QPAs, employees actually working here?
The people that hold that certification are currently working full-time in other capacities.
Okay, so they don't have the time. How many people work in our purchasing office?
There's the purchasing agent and an assistant.
Okay, and the assistant isn't
She
qualified to work under somebody else's QPA?
She does not have her certification yet.
Yeah, but she can work under another QPA certification.
I'm not going to get into employees' abilities.
Okay. Okay, so has she, are we paying for anybody to go for their certification or anything right now, or we're just looking to go outside?
Yes.
We're just looking to go outside, you're not looking to hire from
The assistant is working
within?
on her certification. However, we do not have a QPA today designated as such.
So are we paying for her to work on that, for her to get her QPA? Do we, as the town,
Yes.
pay for her certification?
Yes, we
So
do.
wouldn't that be the next logical, if we're paying for her to have her QPA, would that not be the next logical step, is to have her step in that position?
Having the certification is one thing. Having the ability and the experience for a town this large is completely different.
Gotcha.
The plan is for her to work under Sean Canning for a period of time. Hopefully, she will gain the experience to be able to step into that role.
Okay, so that's what we're working towards. We're working towards hopefully getting her to step into that role. Are you going to, but you're still going to look for another QPA?
Not if this resolution is passed.
Oh, so once this resolution passed, we're taking that off the list. You're not putting out a job opening anymore.
We have put one out. We have not gotten any viable candidates.
Yeah, so once we sign this resolution, that means we're not going to look for any other viable candidates. We're going to focus on getting our person.
Hopefully, the
Okay,
inside candidate will gain the experience needed for the position.
okay. Understood. Okay, so now I'll follow up with R21-316. Is there any affordable associated with this developers agreement? I mean, like, are they paying us money? Are they including, I don't think there's any affordable included in the planning.
The affordable was gone as a result of the earlier lawsuit, but there is an affordable fee to be paid.
A fee. So we're still going to owe. So in order to pass this 100, we're going to have to approve another development for 100 to make up for the affordable that we're missing from here.
Well, originally, there was 404 units to be built in this development with
And how many
80
of those-
with 80 affordables, so we can go back to that if you'd like.
No, I'd like to know what's going on. I'm
Well,
trying
I'm
to get
telling you,
information.
right? So
I
you
know, I just
have the
wish you'd do it
information.
professionally.
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
So going back to 404. Now, Planning Board approved says we don't need to do another developers agreement. What do we lose if we don't do this developers agreement?
We lose some control over it. We, like Mr. Kaufman said, and like I've said, this is sort of the tip of the pyramid. It takes all of the prior approvals, it puts them into one particular agreement. It's fairly boilerplate. You're going to be very disappointed if it passes and you get it. There's nothing exciting in it. And as a matter of fact, I mean, the only thing that we really negotiated that's a little bit unique for it is the ability to do a phase one on the parcel before it's donated to us.
What's a phase one?
Environmental.
Okay, so we have to do an environmental. Who negotiated this contract?
We don't have to do it. They
They will.
have to, and it has to be to our satisfaction before we accept the donation, so.
Okay, and who,
May I jump in? May I ask a question? Mr. Clark, this land that's donated, Matt Howard said in 2000, was it, I believe, 2016, the parcel that's being built or proposed to be built, there's an LOI for that, but there's not a current LOI since 2003 on the parcel that's being donated. Is that correct?
On the back piece, there weren't wetland studies done since development was proposed.
2003, or 1989 maybe.
There was approvals dating back from the 90s all the way through early 2000s, yes.
Okay.
so is that included in phase one?
No, an LOI is not included in a phase one. It's to make sure that the township is not taking on liabilities in terms of site remediation or cleanup.
Would the extension, the Permit Extension Act bring forward the last LOI?
It did.
So a new one would not be necessary?
From under COVID-19, there was a Permit Extension Act.
Right.
And my office did receive notice that Permit Extension Act is expiring shortly. My office received notice that the current LOI that's being relied upon is being renewed with the department by the applicant.
So they're good with that? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm sorry?
So then that particular aspect of this is deemed complete?
Yeah,
On the buildable lots, not the lots that are being donated, correct? There's no LOI for that.
not since earlier in the 2000s.
Correct.
So what we're getting, we don't know what's wetlands and what's not. There's
We
no-
do.
We have an idea.
An idea, but
We're getting 10, there's approximately 10 to 11 developable acres
Uh,
on there.
as high as 16 acres based on
high
the
as
previous LOIs that were done.
Yes.
Maxim roadside?
Yes.
Correct.
And that considers all the buffers and everything where Brooks,
Yes,
okay. Who negotiated this contract?
I did.
Did you have any input at all from council?
It was distributed to council in August, and they were given an opportunity to ask questions. I can tell you, nobody did. And then it came up in a meeting in August. Councilman Bonovich raised an issue then, and we looked into it. And since then, I don't think the mayor or deputy mayor or anybody else other than Councilman Bonovich had an issue.
But you've been negotiating this for how long?
Few months?
And at no time during those months did you ask for any council input?
Of course not. I'm not going to ask them for input until I have a draft in place. Do you not know how draft documents work?
I elected them, so if
I understand that, but they hired me, and so I negotiate the agreement, and when it gets to a point where I, in my professional judgment, am satisfied with it, I can present it to them, they can review it, and if they have questions, they can ask me.
Of course.
Well, I would think
That's
you
how
would-
it works. It's not a process where we all sit down and work together.
So it's not a process where you all work together. You're the dictator and they're just
Not
there
as,
to
not
answer.
while it's being,
No.
not while it's being drafted. I mean, I don't know.
Please.
I want your input on it.
Whatever it is that you do in freehold, I'm sure that you do it unfettered, and then when you come to a decision on whatever it is you do, then you present it. Is that correct, typically? So
No.
that's what I do, too.
No, we have to ask for permission before.
So you work with permission all the time? I don't. I have a little bit more freedom than that.
So,
I just want to interject one thing, Mr. Clark, that although I did not speak to you, I did speak to Matt Howard about the condition of wetlands, you know, whether there were any, if that one lot that could be donated, or the parcel that could be donated, would it be, you know, is it possible to be buildable? That was very important to me to make sure that we got.
I can give you some
Yeah.
information on that.
No, you
So,
already did. That's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
I-
So you're the person I went to for that. I didn't go to Mr. Clark.
I've taken a look at GeoWeb, which is the NJDEP mapping service. I took a look at the past approvals. Even better than GeoWeb is the past approvals. Those were boots on the ground, department verified wetlands lines with buffers. And they showed, Mr. Clark was pretty generous with 10 to 11 acres. Some of them showed upwards of 16 acres of uplands that could be developed.
My point was only that there was input from council. I don't know what anyone else may have done in terms of calling administration for a question.
it's disappointing to me that you're all not working together on this.
Well, we are. I thought that was working
Well,
together.
if Mr. Bonovich doesn't know what you did, and you don't know what Mr. Russo did, and Mr. Russo doesn't know what you did, that's not working together to me. I just
That's
want to
not
see
the
you guys
case.
working together.
That wasn't the case.
All I've been hearing all night is everybody arguing over, this was said, this wasn't, and this is coming from council, and if you guys are arguing about what was said and what wasn't said, how do you think we, the public, feel?
The only thing I wanted to do, Mrs. Smilik, was to tell the truth. The dates that information was distributed to council, because I keep reading on different websites on Facebook that we didn't know, things were signed, nobody knew, we didn't see it. That's a lie.
Like
That's a
where?
lie.
Because it wasn't on my
So
websites or
that's- I
Facebook.
just want to share the truth.
Well,
It's pretty simple.
It would be the first then,
That's very generous of you.
so,
Thank you for all your sweet comments.
you're welcome. So again, there's no affordable with this, so there's going to have to be another development made in order to accommodate the affordable housing we're missing.
Well, that's the next round. We don't have that number yet, but it will come from there somewhere else.
The only affordable component of this agreement is 1.5%, right, Mr. Clark, of the assessed value?
Correct.
Which is how much?
It's approximately $500,000, maybe a little bit less, on the assessed value of about $18 million.
And what's the normal amount that usually is?
1.5%.
1.5 is the normal that anybody
That's
pays?
correct. Depends on when the permits are issued. But now, in this day and age, at this time, yes, 1.5% is what governs.
Okay. So we are already going into 2025 behind. Do we have a plan for 2025? Have we even discussed it? Has there been any kind of, I mean, we're only 3 years away.
There's been some internal discussions, I'm not going to share them with you, but, you know, given how well everything seems to go with affordable housing and, you know, the public reception of it, I anticipate it's going to be an uphill battle.
Well, internal discussions, does that include council or does not include council?
It does.
Okay. Just making sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. So I don't have anybody else. Sir?
Sorry, I didn't sign the thing.
Mike Bernstein, Colleen Court, Howell. First of all, I'm sorry, I apologize, that was disrespectful for the outburst.
No worries.
But you may not like this either. How does this work? I would like some kind of clarification, I think we all would. We voted you in, right? You guys ran, congratulations, you all won a seat. Why is he in charge? Because every single thing that happens here.
Sir?
So this is how it works. We're a Faulkner Act form of government, right? You vote for council. Council sets policy for the township, 50,000 foot. It goes to the manager. The manager then makes sure that that policy is enacted through people such as Mr. Howard, myself, and the other professionals here. So we have jobs to do, and that's what we do. We enact the policy that council establishes in the town. They don't do the granular nitty-gritty every day negotiating. That's not our form of government. In fact, they don't have the right under our form of government to direct anybody like myself or Mr. Howard how to do our job. It's specific in the law. They tell the township manager, and the manager tells us. And you can look it up in the statutes.
You know, and I'm not knocking anybody, it's just like when you sit here and you're a concerned citizen, and there's things you want to know that you're not allowed to know, but you have to suffer the consequences of all of that, and things get voted on that they don't even seem to know everything that's going on, but we're the ones that suffer the bills, we're the ones that suffer the taxes, we're the ones that suffer the traffic, we're the ones that suffer our quality of life going downhill. And then you come to a meeting, and all you see, I'm sorry, is you telling them what to do, and Tina cares about the town. She asked a legitimate question. You wouldn't even let her answer it. You wouldn't even answer it for her. So I just wanted that clarification. So, good luck, guys. Seriously.
Ms. Osborne?
Hi, Joan Osborne, 28 Baronia, Howell. I'm sorry I didn't sign the list. I didn't intend on having any comment, but I did have a couple questions based on some of the stuff I saw tonight. One of the questions is, this agreement that everyone wants to see, and this agreement that everyone wants to see, and that you're saying is going to be a compilation of all the prior, the 2003 settlement, or whatever year it was, and the planning board approvals. And it sounds as though Mr. Bonovich believes that the turning over of some land prior to the permits being issued wasn't an earlier agreement, but he doesn't see it in this agreement. And I would just, make sure that before that gets finalized and approved, because, the last in time is the one everyone's going to look at and say, well, if it wasn't an early agreement and it's not in a later agreement, then you really didn't mean it. You took it out for a reason. So please make sure it's in there if they're supposed to give land.
I'm confident the donation's going to occur. Part of the reason of putting the phase one in was, as you know, to make sure that we get clean land so that we don't have environmental liability. So we're in a position to accept the donation. So that's not an issue.
So it's going to be in the developer's agreement that they have to?
I can send a new one to Mr. Kaufman, and I'm sure that they wouldn't have an issue with it.
And the intent with this land that's being donated, is it to be developed by the township, used by the township, or is it going to be open space?
It's open space.
Open space, okay, thank you. The other thing that caused me some concern is the statement that the mayor already signed this before it was voted on by council, as though she approved it. Now, is that something that normally happens just as a clerical, make it easy, get her to sign things, and then if the vote happens, then it's already signed and ready to go, versus it means she approved it without there being a vote?
I would think no. The mayor will sign it ahead of time, and you'd have to ask her specifically, but typically I would assume she'd read it then, understood it, and that anticipated an approval. So, we didn't, obviously, because there wasn't an approval or ratification of it, the developer doesn't have it. We have it. So it'll wait now until we get an approval of it or not.
So it was a convenience thing. It doesn't take the place of her vote.
Well, no, it doesn't take the place of her vote, but I would hope it's an indication that she reviewed it.
Well, if it doesn't get approved, it has no effect, correct? Her signature didn't mean anything if it wasn't
I still have it. They don't have it. So it's, without the council approving it, no. It's a 5-person vote. It hasn't been approved. It hasn't been shared with the developer. But my point is, we have people saying online that the council wasn't provided with it, when in fact that's not the case. They had it well in advance of the vote.
All right, well, there seems to be a dispute about that.
Well, there is no dispute, I can assure you.
And if I may clarify, that particular evening, the mayor had about 6 documents that required her signature. They were for her on the dais. She signed all of those documents. It is not as if she were signing that document to approve that document. She had just signed that document in the stack of other documents that she had signed.
And then it would be ready in the event it was approved.
That is correct.
Okay.
And when the resolution failed, that document was withheld and returned to Mr. Clark as the attorney.
In fact, it should have been destroyed probably, so that there's no mistake that it was actually.
No, I still have it.
Okay. My other question on this whole development is, as far as it being a draft document, I mean, in my mind, it stops being a draft once it's put on the agenda for approval. Like, why is that not the case?
Because it didn't get the approval. It's the approval that triggers its existence as a public document. It's well settled in Oprah. I mean, draft documents, advisory, consultative, and deliberative documents are exempt from production. That's what this is.
So
It's still, and in fact, it's still on the agenda tonight, so it still hasn't been approved. Once it has been, it becomes a public document.
Before they're approved, and I don't know why this one would be special.
What's that?
We see so many things before they're approved, other resolutions,
Typically,
other
contracts and things like that are withheld. They're not typically included in the agenda for just that reason.
Well, yeah, in the past, we had gotten them.
We shouldn't be.
Contracts. Okay, thank you.
All right. I just need a motion to close the public portion.
Motion to close public portion.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Public comments are closed.
All right, is there a motion to adopt? We'll move on to ordinances. Ordinance number 21-28.
We have the consent agenda.
Did I skip over everything? Hold on one second. Sorry.
Or 21-325.
Yes, resolutions. Need a motion for the resolutions.
I'll make the motion to move Resolution 21-325 through Resolution 21-332, correct?
I'll second the motion.
Moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
The consent agenda has been approved.
What about 316?
Getting there.
That was supposed to be
Oh.
a separate vote.
Next, we'll consider Resolution 21-316, which was previously tabled. Is there a motion? Was the motion already made to table?
It was not, no.
Okay.
So you would need a motion to table Resolution 21-316.
Is there a motion to table?
I'll make the motion to table R-21-316.
I would second that motion.
Motion made by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any further discussion by the body? Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
Resolution 21-316 has been tabled.
Mr. Harris, will you please read the title of ordinance number 21-28?
Ordinance number 21-28 is an ordinance of the Township of Howell authorizing the acquisition of land designated as Block 3, Lot 8 on the tax map of Howell, also known as the Wainwright Tract, for the purpose of open space.
Is there public comment on this ordinance? Does anyone want to speak on this ordinance? I don't see any hands. With that, I'll close the public portion. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-28?
I'll make a motion to adopt 0-2128
Second.
and say this is, although less than 7 acres, anytime we preserve property, it's a real plus for Howell.
Moved by Councilwoman O'Donnell, seconded by Councilman Bonovich. Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Bonovich, Councilman
That's all
Bonovich, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Russo.
Yes.
And ordinance number 21-28 has been properly adopted.
Okay. Introduction. Is there a motion to introduce ordinance number 21-29?
Deputy Mayor, let me read it for the record. Put
Yes,
it on
sir.
title. Ordinance 21-29 is an ordinance of the Township of Howell, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, authorizing execution of a deed of easement and deed of dedication agreement in favor of the County of Monmouth.
Is there a motion to introduce ordinance number 21-29?
I'll make the motion for ordinance 21-29.
I'll second the introduction.
Moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Bonovich?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2129 has been properly introduced and will have a public hearing and possible adoption on October the 26th.
Mr. Harris, would you please read the introduction for ordinance number 21-31?
21-30.
30.
Ordinance 21-30 is an ordinance of the Township of Howell, County of Monmouth, and State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 306 of the Township Code entitled Towing.
Is there a motion to introduce ordinance number 21-30?
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance 21-30.
I'll second the introduction.
Moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any further discussion?
No, sir.
Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Russo.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-30 has been properly introduced and will also have a public hearing and possible adoption on October 26th.
Okay. All right, I don't see any more ordinances on the agenda.
Deputy Mayor, there is one
There is
additional.
one more. So my agenda is a little, okay.
You have the old one?
I have the old.
Ordinance
I'm one
20
off each one, so. Mr. Harris?
Ordinance 21-31 is a capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of real property and appropriating $400,000 therefore authorized in and by the Township of Howell in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey.
I'll make the motion for ordinance 21-31.
Moved by Councilman Bonovich, seconded by Councilwoman O'Donnell. Is there any further discussion?
No, sir.
Councilman Bonovich,
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Russo.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-31 has been properly introduced, and it too will have a public hearing with possible adoption on October 26th.
Okay, two things. First, Howell will be one of 10 municipalities throughout Monmouth County hosting early voting, which will take place from October 23rd through October 31st. Voting will take place at the Adelphia Fire Company Station Number 2. That's at 993 Highway 33. More information can be obtained from the Monmouth County Board of Elections. The second thing is meeting dates. The next regularly scheduled meeting will take place on October 26, 2021. The meeting will commence at 6 p.m., at which time governing body will enter into executive session. The regular meeting will start at 7 p.m. I have one thing to say briefly. A lot of spirited debate tonight, a lot of comments. I'm all about it. Just direct the comments to us, okay? And the questions to us. I want to follow the rules. Any frustration, you can particularly address to Mr. Bonovich over there more than me. I'm just kidding. But just keep it to us. These guys work very, very hard for us around the clock, all right? I want any frustration, we're the ones who ran, direct it to us. Respected questions, you can ask them questions all you want. They're more than willing to go back and forth, but keep it to us, all right? That's all I have. Mr. Bonovich?
I'm good.
I have a question. Will we be doing the cannabis previous to the next meeting on the 12th? Or will that be the 26th?
I think
The first meeting in November is
Yeah.
Okay.
when we have people scheduled.
Okay, so that would be the 9th?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. Can I have a motion to close?
Motion to close?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned.